Welcome to the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. Are you over 40 and tired of struggling with your weight, dieting, and constantly feeling like you're starting over with nutrition and fitness? Do you wish you had more energy? Do you want to lose weight and finally keep it off for good? I'm Lil, a certified nutrition coach and former registered nurse. I too have been there, and at the age of 44, I decided I was done with fad diets and chasing a lower number on the scale. I was so tired of constantly starting over and wondering why I couldn't get lasting results. I became a nutrition coach and created the Feel Your Best formula for women who want to build muscle, lose fat, and keep it off for good. If you're ready to build a better relationship with food, the scale, and your body, let's build your formula for feeling your best. If you're new here, make sure to check the episode details for the link to my newbie starter guide. You'll receive an email straight to your inbox with everything you need to start building your Feel Your Best formula. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. I am Lil, and I actually had an entirely different podcast planned for today, but after doing an Ask Me Anything in my newsletter list and also receiving a few messages on my Instagram recently, all in this kind of same vein of questioning and thought, I just knew that we have to talk about this here on the podcast. I'm going to warn you, you might not like what I'm going to say here today, and you might be shaking your head or even a little bit mad at me as you hear what we're going to talk about, but it needs to be said because it is probably the one thing that most people are resisting, and it is the one thing that could change everything for you. I know from speaking to some of you who listen to this podcast that you tune in regularly, but you do kind of have selective hearing sometimes, and maybe you convince yourself that you are not actually someone who needs to take the time to work on this foundational step that is required if you ultimately want to build sustainable habits. And what we're talking about today is maintenance. Today, we're going to talk about why you're resisting the most powerful tool you have available to you when it comes to improving your relationship with food, the scale, and your body. And that tool is maintenance. And yes, we all want to maintain our results after we get to our end goal, but many of you do not want to take this crucial step of understanding maintenance before you get to your end goal. And I know, I get it. It's so hard to move away from this idea that weight loss is what we should immediately be working on, that it is the best way to measure your health. It's the best way to measure your progress from your nutrition and your fitness plan. For your entire life, you've been surrounded by this message from the people in your life. Maybe it was your mother, maybe it was an aunt, maybe it was your friends, definitely from the media, definitely from the diet industry, and maybe even your healthcare provider telling you that weight loss is the one thing that you have to focus on when it comes to your health and wellness. And honestly, kind of forgetting about the rest and just using it as this one measure of success. And when you're coming from this mindset, you're not going to like it when someone tells you dieting might not be the answer. Heck, you might even think I have no idea what I'm talking about when I say eating more is going to give you better long-term results than dieting all the time. You might think I'm crazy because this is not what most people are telling you. But guess what? I was stuck in that mindset for decades, and I've been through the process of letting go of diet culture, and I've been there chasing skinny, and I have never ever felt better than I do in my life right now because I've let go of that way of thinking and constantly chasing something that I was never going to catch. I love seeing my clients shed this dark cloud of diet culture that has been following them around their entire adult lives. It is so freeing and it is so empowering because maintenance is your strongest tool. It is the best way to truly build a peaceful relationship with your body, with food, and attain that thing that you think you want. You are going to get there if you learn maintenance. But if you skip it, you're just going to keep chasing your tail. If you truly want to feel good about yourself, if you want to stop obsessing over food, over this constant mental chatter of what you should and should not be eating, this constant pressure on yourself to feel like you should be doing more, you should be on a diet, then you need to accept the fact that dieting will get you nowhere until you fix your relationship with food, the scale, in your body. These 3 pillars of the process are essential if you want to build healthy habits that last. And of course, if you do want to look a certain way and you want to maintain that look, then you need to learn maintenance. So, a few questions for you. Do you feel like you should always be on a diet and that dieting and eating a certain amount of calories, like lower calories, under 2,000 calories a day, should be a way of life for you? Do you think that eating that way is what you should be doing for the long term? Do you avoid your favorite foods or treats when you're on a diet? And when you're dieting, do you worry that eating those foods will automatically make you fat or stall your progress? And do you feel guilty when you eat those foods, even when you're not on a diet and you think to yourself, well, I'm just eating these foods, it's going to make me fat, and I'll just go on a diet when I feel like I need to? Have you ever paid attention to your nutrition while not also simultaneously trying to lose weight? Meaning, have you given your nutrition the same attention that you do when dieting, when not actively trying to lose weight? That means being intentional with planning your meals, tracking your food, making sure that you have a lot of whole grain, whole foods, fruits, veggies, lean protein, healthy fats. That's pretty much what every diet is going to have you be eating, some variation of that. Yet, if you're not on a diet, do you just kind of not pay attention, and just eat willy-nilly? Have you been frustrated by the scale? Do you feel like it goes up even though you feel like you're eating healthy? Or do you feel like it won't go down even though you're eating less and less? Does the number on the scale affect your overall mood for the day that you get on the scale? Does it then dictate if you're in a good mood or a bad mood, or how you feel about yourself? I could go on here, but these are really some areas that I personally have struggled with. These are the top areas that I see my clients struggling with. And these are all a symptom of getting bad information and letting diet culture dictate how we eat and how we feel about our bodies and how we feel about our eating. And every single diet you have tried in the past has these 2 things in common. It doesn't matter what the details are. I don't care if you did paleo, Whole30, keto, portion fix, 2B mindset, intermittent fasting, whatever it was. It worked for you. You think it worked for you because this diet put you in a calorie deficit, meaning you were eating less calories than your body needs to maintain its current weight, which is how every single weight loss or fat loss plan works. If you eat less calories, your body will get smaller. Okay. So number one, the diet put you in a calorie deficit. Number two, the diet didn't teach you how to maintain your results, right? And you think it worked because maybe you lost 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, whatever pounds on that diet. So you're like, that diet worked for me. But here you are back in the same spot, feeling the same way you did before you started that diet, however many times. And you have to accept the fact that it didn't work for you because the things you needed to do to lose the weight while following that diet were too extreme for you to continue to do after you stop putting that time, effort, attention, and energy into eating that way that the diet plan wanted you to eat. And it's all about maintenance because you can't maintain in an extreme way of life. Look at people who even get bariatric surgery, also known as, stomach stapling, or there's all different modalities of, making your stomach smaller now, not just stomach stapling. And people go through this whole process of having a pretty intense surgery, and yet they still struggle to maintain. A very small percentage of people who go through that surgery actually end up being able to maintain the habits required of eating very, very small meals multiple times a day to maintain the weight loss that they achieve through the surgery. So we don't necessarily have a dieting problem. We have a maintenance problem. And one thing I want to highlight here is you have to understand you're not going to maintain your results by continuing to eat less calories than your body needs. So let's say, for example, your maintenance calories are 2,300 calories per day to maintain where your body is right now. And then you go into a calorie deficit of eating maybe 1,800 to 1,900 calories per day, and you lose 10 pounds. Once you are done with that 10-pound weight loss, you're not going to continue to eat 1,800 to 1,900 calories per day. You're going to go back up to eating, depending what your weight is, but 2,200, maybe 2,300 calories again. When I did my fat loss phase, I went right back to eating the same calories I was eating previously. And people don't understand this. You think you have to keep eating these tiny amounts of food and dieting even after you get to your goal. And believe me, I have seen all kinds of programs. I've seen what these diet programs have done to women's mental health. I've seen the confusion and the misinformation that these programs create. And I've struggled with it myself before I understood how fat loss really works. Because again, remember these programs? Weight loss is what they are giving you. They're giving you weight loss. You don't even have to work out on many of these programs. And now, if you've been listening to this podcast, you understand that proper fat loss does require resistance training, eating adequate amounts of protein, choosing to chip away at that fat loss a little bit slower so you can actually be in a maintainable and somewhat enjoyable calorie deficit. And you have to do that resistance training so that you can maintain your muscle. And many of you are ending up where you are because every time you diet, you're losing muscle, which is exactly what happened to me. So don't beat yourself up about it, about the fact that you don't understand how it really works, because no one has probably really told you how it works, perhaps until you listen to this podcast. And if you want to feel better about your overall nutrition and fitness and overall habits, then you absolutely must stop approaching it from a weight loss only standpoint. Also, a reminder here, yes, for some of you, weight loss might in fact be the correct first step. But for the vast majority of you, it is absolutely not the right first step. So if you're listening to me and you're thinking, oh, That's for someone else. That's not for me. I definitely need to just start off losing weight and then I'll definitely feel better. Okay, do you have a metabolic condition? Are you struggling with prediabetes, type 2 diabetes? Do you have hypertension? Do you have high cholesterol? If the answer is no to those, then it is not an imminent danger for you to need to lose weight. You need to take the time and understand that you could benefit so much from maintenance versus the time and energy you would spend just immediately trying to lose weight. Again, it's all about your individual situation, and that is why having a plan that's made for you is so important. Yet, most of you choose cookie cutter programs when it comes to choosing a weight loss or nutrition fitness program, whatever. When you're ready to get, quote, back on track, you're choosing cookie cutter programs that are not made for you. But no matter what your individual needs entail, even if you are someone who would benefit from losing weight right off the bat, from losing body fat right off the bat, you still need to understand maintenance, and you need to understand it most likely before you get to your goal weight, because you can't be on a diet forever and ever and ever. So when I did the Ask Me Anything on my newsletter list, as I mentioned earlier, I've done this previously and I absolutely love the questions that come in. I love connecting with you guys. But it is so clear to me that most of you, 100% of those of you who reached out, and I'm so glad you did, it was so clear to me that you're trying to chase dieting and you're feeling like you should be eating low calorie. 100% of those of you who reached out were not eating enough. You are not eating enough calories. And you told me you've been eating in this low calorie range for a very long time. And you're like, I don't understand. Why am I not seeing results? I saw results at first, but I'm not seeing results now. And you think you have to keep eating lower and lower calorie, and that's going to be the solution. What I was hearing is that either for some of you, you're like, the scale's going up and I don't know why, or the scale is stuck where it is. I'm not losing any more weight and I'm frustrated. And the number one problem here is you're measuring your progress, your success, your failure simply by the number on the scale. And you're not using the whole wealth of information and other marks of progress that are going to make you realize that when you're doing things right, you're going to see progress in so many other areas. You're just focusing on the scale. And also, 100% of you who reached out, you're not actually doing strength programs that are going to help you build muscle for the long term. When I asked what programs you're doing dumbbell cardio workouts. I know, I get so much pushback on this. I'm telling you, workouts that are marketed towards women are 99% of the time not actual strength training workouts. Even when they're telling you, oh, this is how you're going to get stronger and build muscle, it's absolute BS 99% of the time. And it's frustrating because you feel like you're working hard. You feel like you're doing all the right things because you're doing these things that diet culture is telling you to do. And you're not seeing the results that you want. And it just makes you want to throw in the towel. You're frustrated. And of course, the most common question I got, someone would email me and say, this is how many calories I'm eating, this is how much I'm working out, this is, my activity level, and all, share all these things of what you're doing to, lose weight. And at the end of the email, often the question would be, Lil, do I need to lower my calories so I can finally lose weight? My answer 100% of the time was emphatically no. You do not need to lower your calories. You need to increase your calories and you need to get your butt into maintenance. And I know that's not what you want to hear. Here's the deal. One of two things is happening here. Number one, if you've been eating low calorie and actually sticking to it for a long period of time, you're tracking your food, you're diligent about your meals, you're really type A about it, and you know, okay, I have been eating 1900 calories a day for 2 years. And I don't understand. I lost weight at first and it worked really well for me, but I'm continuing to eat this way and the scale hasn't budged. So this is what's happening. If you are actually sticking to that calorie deficit, your metabolism has decided that it's starving and it is doing something called metabolic adaptation, where it basically, I guess we could say, it slows down. But what it is doing is forcing you into a situation where you would need to continue to eat lower and lower calories in order to actually lose weight, because your metabolism is adapting to the situation. This is how we survive famines. This is how humans survive starvation, is your metabolism slows down in all these other little ways to preserve energy as best it can to save you from this starvation mode. And you will just stay where you are. You're not going to gain weight if you are truly eating less calories than your body needs. You're not going to gain weight. That's a total myth, and it's an insult to anyone who has survived an actual starvation situation. That is not how it works in your body, but you can feel like, oh my gosh, I'm eating so little and yet I'm not losing weight or I'm gaining weight. And that's another situation. So we're going to go into part 2 of what is probably happening. And out of these two situations, I'd say part 2 is most likely what's happening. Part 1, where you're truly eating super, super low calorie, that involves being hungry, being diligent about your food, tracking your food, and in a way, literally restricting and starving yourself for a long amount of time. And I personally did find myself in that situation a few times when I was very disordered in my eating and not understanding why the scale wasn't going lower because I was being so diligent about it. But most of you are probably in the second situation here, which is you've been trying to eat low calorie and you've been restricting for a prolonged period of time, and you're just so hungry that every once in a while you binge, whether it's every few days or once a week, or maybe you're really, really strict during the week and maybe you're eating 1,500 calories a day, Monday through Friday, and then the weekend comes and you're eating 3,000 to 4,000 calories per day, Saturday, Sunday, and just basically maintaining or even gaining weight because of the amount of food and alcohol you're consuming on the weekends. This is very possible as well. And it's really a symptom of the fact that you've been restricting for so long. And as I said, I've been in both of these situations where I got myself into metabolic adaptation first. That was the first thing I ran into. And then I completely fell off the wagon and I gained a ton of weight. And then I went back to my dieting and I ended up in this cycle of restricting and binging, eating an entire sleeve of Oreo cookies or a ton of ice cream, and basically just yo-yoing between eating super low calorie and then having these periods of binging. And the problem is that you put your focus on the binging and you think the binging is the problem. But in reality, if you just stopped restricting and you learned how to nourish your body and eat in maintenance, you're probably not going to have a problem with binging. Does that make sense? So we beat ourselves up for the symptom, but really we should be focusing on the problem that is causing the symptom. And these are both unfortunate outcomes of being stuck in this constant diet cycle. The truth is, you really should not be in a calorie deficit longer than 12 weeks. So if you started working out and eating healthier 2 or 3 years ago, and you were dieting and you got great results with that diet at first, you can't stay on that diet. You shouldn't have been on that diet for more than like maybe 3 months at most. But again, this depends on your starting point. If you're someone with a large amount of fat to lose, then you might be able to stick it out in a fat loss phase a little bit longer. It's a very nuanced basis. But if you were someone that just needed to lose 10 or 20 pounds, then if you keep sticking with it after 12 weeks, after 16 weeks, that's where you start to enter the metabolic adaptation or get into that restrict binge cycle. And both of these situations, the way that you recover from it and start working towards your ultimate goal is you have to spend time in maintenance, and you have to do the work to build a better relationship with food and get out of this I should be on a diet mindset. I urge you, I beg you, you need to learn how to eat and build habits in maintenance. This is exactly what I teach my clients, and it is the driving force behind finally getting peace with your food, your fitness, and your body. That's what we want. We want peace. We want to stop feeling like we have this weight on our shoulders of diet culture chattering in our ear all the time of all the things we're doing wrong and why we're terrible and how bad we look. And like, there's just this negative mental chatter that comes with diet culture. Now, you have no business dieting if you don't understand why the scale isn't moving in the direction you want it to. If you don't understand how your food choices, your activity level affect the scale, then you shouldn't be trying to make the number on the scale go down. Most of you are throwing spaghetti at the wall and trying to see what sticks and focusing on the scale as your only measure of success or failure. If you get upset over the number on the scale and think the number going down is the only measure of good habits, or it's your reward for whether you've been good or bad, please, you should not be dieting. If you fear eating your favorite foods, things that we would consider treats, which honestly, I don't consider them treats anymore because I just include them in my day-to-day life. If you think those foods need to be avoided if you're going to lose weight and if you are going to consider yourself healthy, then you need to stop dieting and you need to learn maintenance. If you are not strength training properly, I'm assuming that you're physically able to strength train. I'm not being ableist here. I understand I've been in situations myself where I cannot strength train, but if you are capable of picking up a weight and doing a strength training workout, you need to be doing that so that you can maintain your muscle during your fat loss phase. If you have not been strength training and you just go and you try to lose weight, you don't even have any muscle to really maintain, and you're just gonna be skinny fat by the time you lose the weight. You need to do yourself the favor of understanding it's not just about dieting. There are other factors and habits that are going to support you in ultimately getting to that end goal, and strength training is absolutely essential in this process. If you feel proud of yourself when you skip meals, or you know that you ate less calories, or you're powering through your hunger pangs, then you should not be dieting. That is disordered. If you're using coffee and wine to power you through the day and then put you to sleep, you should not be dieting. You got to focus on building habits that are going to support your overall health. And if you're using alcohol and wine to control your energy levels, you got to cut that out, and you got to do it through nutrition. If you are dieting and you're following arbitrary rules and you don't really understand how many calories your body needs, how many calories you're eating, what your macros are, and how those work in your body, you're not doing yourself any favors. You need to take the time to understand these things. And honestly, there's more issues I could go into. I mean, it could probably write a book of all the reasons that you should not be dieting. But these are the most common ones I see. And the problem here is that you're just going to keep finding yourself back in the same place over and over and over. Because again, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's Whole30, keto, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, whatever. You're not doing anything different these programs are all the same. They're just having you cut your calories, and they're not teaching you how to build supportive habits, how to build a plan that's individualized to your needs that you can actually stick with. When you're in a calorie deficit and you have not learned how to maintain, and you haven't built those supportive habits, you're just trying to force your life into a plan that wasn't made for you. The great thing about maintenance is you can approach it with a state of curiosity and intention at the same time. You can be intentional, and you can also say, let me see what I can learn here, versus, oh, the only reason I'm doing this is to see the number on the scale go down. When you're approaching it with a weight loss only mindset, there's a lot of desperation, anxiety, and worrying that go into the process. And I know it can be tough mentally to think of putting effort into your nutrition without being supposedly rewarded with weight loss, but it is an investment, and it's an investment that will pay you back 100-fold, because you want to feel better, right? You want to feel better. And if you're not feeling good the way that you've been approaching it the same way time after time after time, then you got to understand you need to do things differently. Think of all this time in your life that you have wasted chasing a lower number on the scale, trying to get skinnier, and dieting. What if you could instead take a small percentage of that time? Say you've been spending 20, 30, maybe 40 years chasing a lower number on the scale. Would you be willing to put in 6 months, 9 months, 12 months to understanding how to build habits that work for you, habits that you can stick with, learn maintenance, and then when you're ready, approach fat loss in a way that's actually going to work and that you're going to be able to maintain? Wouldn't that be time well spent? I know it's not what you want to hear. We all want quick weight loss, fast results. But how has that approach helped you? What if your mindset and how you feel about your body improved along the way? What if you started feeling stronger and more confident and were building muscle and losing fat without the scale going down? You need to understand there is so much progress that you can make in maintenance that has absolutely nothing to do with how much you weigh. I will be honest. Yes, I'm a nutrition coach, but what my clients really need help with is navigating through this process, because they have so much misinformation and confusion and disconnect that diet culture has taught them. And I teach you how to enjoy food again without the guilt. I help you create the balance you desire and let go of that black cloud of mental chatter and diet culture that follows you around every time you need to make a decision about food, like 3 to 20 to 50 times a day, where you constantly have that chatter in your head when you just want to make a decision about what you want to eat. It takes work, it requires patience, but it will literally change your life. And I can't say here, just recording my podcast, what your individual needs are, unless, of course, you're one of my clients listening. But I would encourage you to take a long, hard look at where that constant need to diet has gotten you, And most likely it has gotten you absolutely nowhere. And whether you've successfully lost 100 pounds or 10 pounds at some point, if you still feel like you need to be on a diet and lose those last few pounds, then guess what? You're going to feel that way literally forever until you heal your relationship with food and shift your focus away from weight loss. There's so much more to a healthy lifestyle that has nothing to do with your weight, and you can work on literally all of those things in maintenance. You can get stronger, you can get more flexible, you can learn how to plan better meals, you can increase your activity level, you can improve your cardiovascular function, you can lose fat, you can build muscle, you can improve your lab work, right? Blood glucose, cholesterol, cardiovascular health. You do have to implement the right habits, but if you're putting all of your focus on weight loss, you're missing out on how you can feel while learning how to build sustainable habits. And it can all be done in maintenance. And then you can just have this really short window of fat loss, get in, get out, get over it, and go back into maintenance. And I know you're going to resist this idea that you should be eating 2,000 or 2,400, even 2,600 calories a day or more. My clients are so shocked when they see what their maintenance calories are. And it is a struggle to mentally say, I am going to eat this much and I'm not going to try to lose weight. I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to track my food. I'm going to eat a balanced diet, but I'm not going to try and lose weight. That is a mental struggle. You've been programmed to only pay attention to your food when you're dieting, and it can feel like you're wasting your energy because you so badly want that reward. You want to see the scale number go down. And as I've said on previous episodes, this is where you need to put on your big girl pants and build that healthy relationship with the scale. You need to start using the scale as a tool for success. And I hate that advice out there of, oh, if the scale makes you feel bad, ignore it. I have a whole, I do a deeper dive into this on previous episodes, but food, the scale, and nutrition, food, the scale, and your body, that relationship between those three things, you're in your body, I'm including fitness in there, your activity level, all those things. These are the pillars that you need to work on. And if you're just going to ignore the scale and not understand what the scale is telling you and get mad at the scale, which I'm sorry, the scale has no opinion on you, that's your own mental issues that are creating that bad relationship. As long as you continue to let that relationship be a bad relationship, you're not going to move past your issues and you're always going to fear it. And it's just so silly. And it's hard at first. I had issues with the scale. When I talk on this podcast, I have been through virtually everything that I talk about on here. And this is where you really need to trust the process, have patience, and understand if you keep chasing weight loss, you're just going to keep finding yourself back in the same exact spot over and over and over and over. You're never going to find peace with any of it. As I said, and I've seen people successfully lose large amounts of weight, but they stay in this constant cycle, losing a large amount. But then when it comes to the maintenance, they maintain it with an all in or all out mentality by doing detoxes, shreds, cleanses, crash dieting, because they so fear the scale going up. And you can break free from decades of bad information. It is possible, but only if you consciously decide to walk away from chasing skinny. You must build a foundation first in maintenance, and then you can start working towards those long-term goals. Most of you are not eating the right amount of calories and macros. You're focusing on the wrong things. You're ignoring the things that will move the needle. You're also under-eating in your dieting attempts and then overeating when not on a diet because you have no idea how and what to eat when you're not on a diet. You're doing the wrong workouts and you're ignoring the supportive habits or taking supplements in the hopes that these will get you the energy and results that you want. You would feel so much better if you just focus on eating the correct calories, protein, fiber, stop taking all these supplements, paid better attention to your overall habits like caffeine, alcohol, sleep, activity level, and stress management. Once you start focusing on what matters, everything changes. But we live in a society where everyone wants a quick fix. We want to do that crash diet. We want to do that cleanse. We want to see that scale number go down quickly. And you are robbing yourself of the ability to truly find a really happy place where you can live. And it's interesting because the thing about maintenance is it's a little stop along the way to your goals. And once you understand how to live in maintenance, no matter where you are, that makes that end goal maintenance even easier. So I hope you understand what I was talking about today. If you've had selective hearing in the past with my messaging telling you need to learn how to live in maintenance, I hope that you really listened and took it to heart and can see how powerful this can be. I'm happy to jump on a call with you for a one-to-one, one-time macro count so you can make sure you have your maintenance macros correct. And I can even talk you through how to know when you're ready for a fat loss phase. This one-to-one call is about macros, but it's also about building those supportive habits so that you have the whole picture and you're not trying to just lose weight in a silo where you ignore the other pieces of your life. Because having a personalized plan is the only way that you are going to be able to sustain it and have the ability to be flexible when life changes. And it requires taking that time and maintenance to understand how to build your individualized plan. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I will see you next week. If you are not subscribed to my newsletter, I highly recommend going into the episode details and subscribing to it, because every week I send out an email with additional things. It's not just repetitive of what is on the podcast here. And I love it when you guys email me and ask me questions and I get to know you guys. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you back here next week. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to check the episode details for my new listener starter guide, and any additional resources mentioned in the episode can also be found in the show notes on my website. You can always find me on Instagram at Macros with Lil, and for more healthy lifestyle tips, recipes, and information on my one-to-one and group coaching services, make sure to check out my website. All the links can be found below. If you know someone else who is ready to start building their formula for feeling their best, please share the love and send them a link to the podcast. I hope you found today's episode helpful, and I'll see you back here next week for a brand new one.